Dear students, we are going to discuss in this lecture two case studies. One is the personal insulin pump, another is mental health care patient management system. Now, as you know, diversity in software is very high. So we have chosen these two projects. One where a embedded system is developed. As you know, I think you know what is an embedded system. Embedded system means where a software is used to control the hardware devices. Okay, so basically, a software is developed for controlling of the hardware device. So here we will be discussing a personal insulin pump, which is basically which will actually control the device of the insulin pump for the diabetic patients, which actually controls the glucose level in a patient. Similarly, another is the mental healthcare patient management system. This is basically an information system for a particular kind of health uh, um, healthcare system. Means those which have some psychological problem or the mental problems. Those patients, for their information system needs to be stored in this particular software. Now, first category, that is in insulin pump control system. Uh, so I think you know what is a diabetic system. A diabetic system means where the blood glucose level is not controlled. So our a particular organ called pancreas, it basically secretes a level of insulin to control our blood sugar in our blood sugar level. But when that pancreas does not work properly and the insulin level is not proper to control the blood sugar level, in that case the sugar level goes high, and that is called as the diabetic condition. So proper level of insulin needs to be provided, and that is what actually diabetic patient does. That is they measure it externally and provide the insulin through injection. Now this particular device is basically having a pump attached to it and some sensors, which are microsensors attached to the person. So microsensor basically senses different parameters of the blood glucose and pass the information to a controller. The controller basically calculates the level of insulin required for that particular person given the present level and the also the time, what time the last insulin was taken, etc. And then refers the appropriate dose of insulin to the pump, and the person actually carries this pump and controller and the entire set with the particular injection which is already attached to the patient. So what this pump does, it basically pushes the particular level of insulin to the blood. Okay, so this is very much essential because if the insulin level is basically something very crucial for people's health. If the glucose level goes down because of high level of insulin, if the insulin dose is suppose high, the glucose level will go down. So if the glucose level go down in the short run, a person may die also because the person may go into coma. Okay, and then the person ultimately may collapse. But if the glucose level is low, then the sugar level is high, blood sugar, this glucose, so sorry, insulin level is low, then the glucose will be more, the blood glucose level will be more, and in the long run, the person may actually suffer from kidney failure, losing of eyesight, etc. Okay, so these are the, so appropriate amount of this insulin level calculation is very important to maintain the glucose level in the blood. Okay, so that has to be very accurate. So basically this system is a safety critical system. Okay, so here the system cannot afford to miscalculate. Okay, and it has to be always up, the system has to be always ready to inject insulin. Okay, so this is the hardware, the entire hardware setup of the device which is attached to the person's body. Okay, so sensors basically are, as you can see, this particular sensors. So sensors are basically micro sensors which pass on the different parameters based on the different parameters, it passes on the data to the controller. Controller, based on the time from the clock, controller basically calculates, and also from this data actually controller calculates the appropriate level of dose to be provided to the patient. Okay, those things are also displayed in the display devices. Now then it sends this information to the pump. Pump basically takes the appropriate level of insulin from the insulin reservoir and pumps it to the patient's body. Okay, so this is the hardware setup of the device. That is the hardware architecture. Now this is the activity diagram for the insulin pump. That is the blood sensors. This is the blood sensor. This is basically data in the rectangular array, shown as the rectangle. So this goes, the sensor data goes to the device, to the particular activity that is being carried out is analyze the sensor reading. This is done by the controller, okay, and then the calculates the what is the blood sugar level, and then it computes basically blood sugar level is data that is being passed to the compute insulin function. So compute insulin function basically compute the appropriate dose of insulin that is to be provided, okay, and that is the insulin dose that goes as the input to the log dose, okay. It basically logs the insulin information, and that is goes to the compute pump command. So depending on the dose, the pump generates the appropriate command, okay. That data, pump data, goes to the insulin control insulin pump, and there it basically uh, pumps the appropriate level of insulin to the patient's body. So this is the entire activity diagram for the insulin pump. So essential high level requirement for this particular use case study of the insulin pump is the system should be always available to deliver the insulin. So system should never fail. Actually, system should be always available to deliver the insulin to the patient's body. Okay, and system shall be reliable and deliver the correct amount of insulin, because it cannot afford to miscalculate. If it miscalculates, then it will have a adverse effect on the patient's body. So basically, it can never afford to miscalculate. It has to be very, very accurate. So it has to be very reliable in this sense. Okay, and so this is how the system needs to be designed. Another case study that we are going to take is the patient information system for mental health care. So mental health care is basically a very, very special case of uh, the medical science. That is in the sense that other healthcare patients are different from the mental healthcare patients. Okay, mental healthcare patients, they are, you know, they have to be. They may not actually need complete hospitalization all the times, but they have to be taken very special care by the specialist in a regular interval, and they need to meet those specialists uh, in their clinic or in some community centers where uh, they can get the specialized checkup. So that has to be carried out very, very uh, timely for the mental health care patients. Okay, so this this clinic should be available to them in their affordable locations, and that is the so that the easy, access to these clinics are possible. And this information system, the patient information system, should be one that actually assists in the proper diagnosing and controlling of the information regarding those patients. Okay, and in short, this particular system can be called as the suppose MHC-PMS, that is the mental health care patient management system. Okay, so this particular software system is to be developed. It's an information system regarding those patients, and this is intended for those clinics. Okay, so this can actually be accessed from the centralized database through internet, or a privatized or a personal a copy can be actually downloaded to those machines in different machines in those clinics, and they can be accessed as the separate copies of the database also. Okay. So there are two basic goals of this particular software. Two, you can say, broad requirements of this software. One, where basically uh, management of those hospital system or the administration of the hospital should be able to assess the performance of the of the healthcare system, that is the way it is working, and whether it is meeting the requirements or not, targets are being met or not. All these performance measurements should be the software should assist in those kind of, should provide proper information to the administration, so that they can actually analyze the performance of the entire system. The administration can analyze the performance of the system in with regards to the way it is dealing with different healthcare patients. That is the overall healthcare patients. Okay, and another is where it is specific to the patients. That is, it should provide adequate information uh, with regard to individual patients, so that the medical staff can take proper care of those patients, healthcare patients, these mental healthcare patients. Okay, so one is the, you can say, where composite or you can say statistical informations are provided to the administrations, so that they can view the performance of the entire system for dealing with mental patients. Another is where individual patients, way the system deals with the individual patients. All the information regarding all different patients should be timely available to the healthcare professionals, so that they can look after them better. Okay, so these are the two broad requirements for the mental health care patient management system. Two broad goals, you can say. So this is the organization of the mental health care patient management system. That is, there is a server, and these are individual nodes that are basically set up in different clinics. Okay, healthcare clinics, mental health care clinics, where the patients will come, and the server will provide the patient's data from the, will basically, whenever the information is provided to the server regarding any patient, that patient information will be accessed from the patient database, and will be provided through the terminals, individual systems in different clinic, to the patient. So this software should have three key features. One is individual care management. Individual care management means it should provide proper summary of the patients, all different patients, to the doctors, summary informations, so that any person, any healthcare patient, the person means the doctor or nurse, they can easily get a overall idea about the patient's health condition by looking at those informations. Okay, those informations may be actually the record of patients, or it should be easy, it should provide easy editing of the information of those the systems, patient's history, etc. So those information, by looking at those information, any healthcare worker can easily get an idea about the condition of that particular patient, so that they can carry on further treatment of the patient. Okay, so another key feature should be of this particular software system should be the patient monitoring. That is, a healthcare, this mental healthcare is a very special condition. It's different from the other healthcare patients. So it is different in a sense that mental healthcare are basically, um, they may, you know uh, where actually it is, even the law actually differentiates them from the other healthcare patients, because a mental healthcare patient can be detained without the, against the wish of that particular patient. The doctor need not take the consent of the patient to detain a patient. Okay, it is not the case in other cases, other healthcare systems. So in the patient monitoring system, the because the timely visit of those patients to the doctor is very important, okay, in the proper time. So if a particular patient is supposed not turning up to the clinic for regular checkup, then the system should raise an alarm to the doctor saying that so and so patients are not coming. It was a visit time for the patient, okay, or it is the date for visit of the patient. Similarly, some patient may not be available in their given address, so those patients should also be tracked, so that and so this kind of patient monitoring system should be available for this particular system. Another is the administrative reporting. Administrative reporting is actually the statistical report that are generated for the administrative people who can have an overall glimpse of the system, entire system. Okay, like how many patients have been treated in a particular month or a year. Okay, uh, so in a particular day, how many patients have entered and left that particular system. Okay, so all this type of the which how many what kind of drugs are basically mostly used in a particular day. Okay, which patients, which category of mental health care patients have been provided um, a particular category of drugs. This kind of summary informations are basically provided. uh, Statistical informations are provided for administrative reporting. Okay, so these are basically three different features of the mental health care patient management systems. Then comes uh, the concerns. That is, mental health care is something which where the privacy is very important. That is, patient's information should be very confidential. So anyone except other than the particular authorized doctor should not be able to look into the information of a particular patient. Okay, so those kind of privacy concern should be handled by the system. Okay, and another is the safety. Safety, because the mental health care cases are such that a particular patient may actually uh, become violent, which may actually pose danger for the other peoples. Okay, or maybe that particular person may develop a tendency to commit suicide. So those safety, the particular system should actually raise safety alarms for the category of patients, different category of patients. So that particular safety concern should be there in the system. That is, given a particular state of a health condition, mental health condition of a patient, the system should raise an alarm to the healthcare people that so and so patient should be detained. Okay, because that particular patient is likely to go violent, etc. So those kind of uh, alarm settings should be there in a particular system. So this is another case study. So these case studies, both these two case studies that we have discussed, we'll be discussing in different time when we'll be gathering the requirement. We'll be discussing about the requirement engineering and the design parts. We'll deal with this system. So we'll call this. Uh, design different parts of these case studies there. So the requirements will be dealing differently, similarly different, use case design, etc., etc. That will also be handling from this part. Okay, thank you.